Not everyone can hope to become a Mahaburkh. It surely requires you to leave the householder's lifestyle. Like you can't really live a 9 to 5 lifestyle while doing Prajar, while living this Mahaburkh lifestyle. So what would you say to that, Ji?
So that question which came, and it's a really interesting question, was a question that a lot of people might have. Because when we hear the life of Sant Gurbachan Singh Ji, many other Mahapurush, Baba Nand Singh Ji, and we hear the lives of Baba Atra Singh Ji, and we look at their routine, and we'll be looking at the routine of Sant Gurbachan Singh Ji today, and it was such an intense routine. And looking at these routines, sometimes we might think that, how do we go on that path as well? How do we incorporate such a routine into our lives? So the question about householders, one comment I'll make is that there were many Mahapurush who were Grishti. Sant Gyani Gurbachan Singh Ji was Grishti themselves. So they had a family. Their children now have passed away, but their grandchildren are still around. So many people might know of Sant Avtar Singh Ji, Bhai Ji, who does Katha as well. And there's Sant Gurbachan Singh Ji's grandson. And there's other grandchildren of Sant Gurbachan Singh Ji still who are alive. So Sant Ji had a family life, but because their life was devoted to the Panth and doing Prachar of the Panth, so that's where sometimes you might get a little bit confused that a Pracharik's life is a little bit different, where someone who's a Pracharik, they're dedicating their life to the Panth. That's why when we look at their Jivan is such where we can't really compare it to someone with a 9 to 5 job. Not saying that someone with a 9 to 5 job can't do Prachar, because there's many Gursikh Prachariks even now in the UK who are doing full-time jobs as well, and they're also doing loads of Prachar. So that's not the point. But when we look at these Mahapurush, they were dedicating every single second to doing Prachar and Gurbani Prachar and teaching Santhya, Katha. So these sort of Mahapurush that we're looking at, it might be sometimes looking at the Jivan might feel a bit daunting, that how do we get to that level? Now, we can also look at many Mahapurush who actually did the 9 to 5 as well, or even did more work than that. There's one example, Sant Baba Puran Singh Ji Kricho Wale, and for a lot of their life, that life where they actually did so much kamai, they remained gupt. No one knew about them. And that avastha that they were in at that time, the avastha of Mahapurush, Jina Saas Gras Na Visra, Har Nama Manamant, Tan Se Sei Nanaka, Puran Soi Sant. That avastha of Saas Gras, remembering Vaheguru with every single breath and every morsel of food, that avastha, they were parpak in that avastha, meaning they had reached that avastha. But no one really knew about them because they were gupt. And Baba Puran Singh Ji lived in a family life their whole life. And they also led their own carpentry workshop. They used to make wagons in Africa. Baba Puran Singh Ji in Kenya. So Baba Puran Singh Ji is a key example of someone who living in a Grishti life, jaise jalm hai, kamal niralam murgai naisane. So the Mahapurush as such, just like the lotus flower, is in the muddy waters, but being in the muddy waters, they're unaffected by it. They live in the family household. They live the family life, the Grishti household. They fulfill all their duties, but they have no attachment to it. That's the difference. And the lives of them Mahapurush, whether it's those Mahapurush who did Gurmat Prachar, whether those Mahapurush who actually did worldly jobs as well, in all of them we see one thing. Regardless of what they were doing, their chit was always focused on Simran. There's a pankti that actually reflects this conversation, is Haath pao kar kaam sab cheet naranjan naal.
Anji.
That remember Vaheguru while doing your worldly duties, and that's what these Mahapurush did. And we hear so many examples of many Mahapurush who lead in the Grishti Jivan, their focus would always be in doing Simran. So, coming back to that question, do you want to just summarize what was the sort of gist of what they were getting at again?
They were just asking more like, why is it? Do you have to leave? Totally leave like a
So that's answered by that question, that Pankti of Gurbani, that you don't need to leave anything. Now, these Mahapurush that we're talking about, they're those Mahapurush who were dedicated to Gurmat Prachar. And there's also been many Mahapurush who maybe were not doing Gurmat Prachar as such, even though later on in their life they did do Gurmat Prachar, like Baba Puran Singh Ji. But during a very large amount of their life, they were just gupt, living the household life, and they were just doing the kamai. So I think that hopefully that gives some answer to that question.
If you enjoyed this video, be sure to check out the full podcast on our second channel, BOS TV.
And don't forget to like, share and subscribe. Let's get it to 10k subs.